Alright, hello everybody. This is Emily Hill from this game project. Our game, you may ask, it's called The State of Our Hearts. Let me get the menu. The State of Our Hearts. It's a visual novel between your character Kina and she meets a boy at school named Josiah. And whether or not that relationship that forms between them is romantic or friendly is completely up to you. It's determined by player choice. And also, you may want the relationship to be romantic. However, your choices may not make that possible, and you may get maybe a more sad ending than you were hoping for. So, we have multiple endings for this. I'd say we have 3 main ones, and then there's kind of a secret one that you can get. Some people have already gotten it. And then we also have some Easter eggs or some hidden jokes throughout the game. One joke is I realized through development that I made this with 2 of my friends, Isaiah, who was in charge of narrative, and then Braz, who was in charge of concept art and most of the character art. So some of the inside jokes are stuff like I realized there's a bunch of short jokes against the main character Kina, and that's because in our friend group we always call Isaiah short because he's the same height as like half of us, but he just thinks he's taller, so we have to tune his ego down a bit, and I guess that manifested itself in the game. We also have an Easter egg for our very helpful TA, Brantley. He helped us create, let me show you, he helped us create a template for the narrative so we wouldn't have to buy one. And also we were having issues. I know most people work from like importing an Excel document in and stuff. We weren't able to figure that out, but this method ended up working just fine for us. You can see the combo sets. Each line is a line of text, and then it's also a portrait of the expression that the character should have during that line. Ideally, if we had other character assets for the boy, for Josiah, then he would do the same thing. The programming's actually set up for him to do the same thing. We just didn't have the assets, so there was nothing we could implement there. And my role on this was a designer. So let me just I say that and then I pulled this up. So as the designer, I knew that the most important thing for this game, well, the most important things were of course going to be the narrative and then the art style. But gameplay wise, it's just clicking. So all of the gameplay essentially boiled down to how I set up this UI design for the main menu, main UI. So week 1, I made this in Illustrator just to get a general idea of what we wanted. I already knew we wanted a character portrait here, and then that we'd want the love interest at the time. We'd want him here, and then this is the format we've stuck with pretty much throughout all of the updates to the UI. Here is when I put these bottom assets from Illustrator into Unreal, so this is in Unreal now, but I use the buttons just standard as they were in Unreal. I formatted everything. You could still see from the 2D template, you can see the platforms. Ignore them. Everyone else did. And then here's what the UI looked like once we had our assets in. This character expression here for her, and this pose for the guy that you saw in Unreal also. Those are all those were both made by Braz. The backgrounds in the game are made by me. They're stock photos that I edited to look more like it fit the art style, and then I put a haze around the edges because these are actually all flashbacks in the game. So I put a haze around it to give it that memory effect. Then I had a huge UI update like a couple weeks ago. It was pretty recent. But we darkened the tones of the menu because the pink was kind of harsh on people's eyes. We had our final updated portrait, and then changed the font color and size. There's now a text animation so that when you click it, it will scroll up. And there's sound effects. You don't really see them. You don't really hear them in the gameplay trailer that I just released. Because I didn't mute the background music while recording the gameplay, so it was kind of hard to put new music over it and only take out the sound effect and only include the sound effects from that other audio track. So yeah, I should have maybe showed that off more, but if you play the game, there are a bunch of sound effects for you to enjoy. And then I also changed the cursor a bit. So that's that on the menu. I'm re-recording this, which is why my voice might sound a little funny. I'm re-recording this because I took way too long on the other video, and I actually forgot to set my timer, so I have no idea how long this has been going for, but that's okay. Can I see it on there actually? Oh, only 6 minutes. That's not too bad. On this blueprint, this is what each scene blueprint pretty much looked like at the end of the day. All this stuff in the middle is what Isaiah would work on. He'd work on this over the weekend or at the start of the week and get it to me a couple days before we needed to finish our stuff. We had weekly check-ins, so he'd get it to me in like the middle of the week. And then the stuff at the top and the bottom is the stuff I did. I mean, granted, I had to go back through all of these conversations and well, there's not one there because you don't have to do it for every line, but I usually go through every line to proofread and to determine character expression. So I did have to go through all of those again, but the stuff I added in from scratch are showing the mouse cursor, background music, camera fading, so like transitions, which still aren't perfect for some reason. I don't know why, but sometimes we'll just pop in to frame and then fade up from there. I don't know why. I found increasing the duration helps make it not as noticeable, but it is still there. It is something I'd want to fix in the future. There's the UI being added in. This is how we would change the 2D character, Josiah, if we had more assets for him. And then this is how we change the girl. And then this part right here, we have it at the bottom too, mostly because that's where more of the routes like end. Usually I put them at the bottom, but here's an example of how I load the next scene. So we transition out, we like do a quick fade to black, we remove the menu, and then the delay is longer than the duration so that it almost seems like a load time while the next level is opening. Sometimes there is like a lag in the load time, sometimes there's not. It really just depends. So I figured the screen should be black when whatever's going on with the level happens. So that's what I did on each of the blueprints. There's a bunch of these also. Then for the UI, this is where like menu specific things would happen. Like this is how the text connects to the dialog box and the buttons. This is where the UI animation and sound effects are set. See the sound effects, another animation. I added a quit game button to this recent version. See, like that's the slide. Where's the scrolling text? That's how the text will scroll. It's pretty cool. And then here is what each scene looks like in the actual like level. It's really just the blueprint that doesn't show up in the level, of course, but you have to put the blueprint in the level. And then you've got your character, you've got your background, and here's the camera. And if you're wondering where the UI is, the UI slides in once the level is opened, and it slides on top of all of this. So that's that stuff. And then basically anything in this little UI folder I made is stuff I did. So that's why this video is taking a little longer than other people's. I had a lot of stuff to cover as the designer, and then I turned more into a compiler and then a generalist for this. I would basically, with the narrative assets being so heavy, I wouldn't get them till the middle of the week. And then probably my biggest issue with this project was the art assets, because so how do I say this? So our artist Braz, he has made some very great improvements to his art over the whole semester, and some very nice additions to the game. However, most of his time was spent redoing the same 2 assets we already had instead of making new ones. So if I go into the characters folder, whenever I got an art asset from him, it would be the night before our project check-in, and I'd have to clean it up because the sprites would usually have like a bunch of stuff around the edges. I'd have to clean it up, reformat it, import it, make sure it works in the game and stuff. And most of these character expressions for her, the ones that all like look exactly the same, those I actually just edited the night before our last check-in. I said I needed our assets finalized then, and I never got any more that night. So to be fair, I did get 2 that night, but I didn't get nearly as many as I had been saying we needed all semester. So I made them myself that night, which is why they're not too great. They're not too complicated, but I figured it's better than nothing, so I could at least try to show off some of the expression changing, because that was our biggest demand. The expressions still don't quite work. I wasn't able to iron out all the kinks, but I'm hoping to do so this summer. But that was the biggest issue I had. Here's all the backgrounds I made for the game. Here's like all of the audio. Our audio is all like available to you. We got permission from like the creators to use the music, so it's all good. No copyright stuff there. Here's our font, menu assets, and then the movies. So for these title screen animations, what we would do is I would make them in Premiere Pro using some effects and then using the backgrounds that we had. And then I would just import them here, and then we play it as a movie on... I actually have a bunch of different setups for all the different menus. I don't know if you saw earlier when I was going through like the different widgets, but there's like every time this screen needs to change, I have a widget for it, so it piled up pretty quickly. That's like a transition. Instead of there being an actual transition, it's actually a whole new video. And then we also have some credits that I made last minute. because I figured we needed credits. So I gave us credit where it's due. We all worked very hard on this game. We've been excited to share it with you guys. So I tried to polish up as much as I could. And I've said that I've been saying this the whole time, but it's not as polished as we would have hoped. But we did have to scale a lot back this semester due to time and just realizing how long everything would take. But I think that's okay. I think I'm happy with the product we ended up with. I hope you guys will be too. This is our website where the game will be available. I thought I updated that to say coming soon. Yeah, I did. So if you want to get emailed when exactly our alpha is available for download, then you could subscribe here. Otherwise, I'm just going to hope to put it up within the next 24 hours. Hopefully, I'll have packaged the game up and have it on our website. You can also check out our trailer, and also you could learn a little more about us. I was going to have serious photos, but when I asked them for the serious photos, they said, put silly ones, you won't. So I did. So yeah, I think that's everything I needed to talk about. I feel like I grew a lot as a game developer this semester, and I'm very excited to work on projects in the future. I know Isaiah's definitely developed more as a game developer. It's even landed him an internship for the summer. Braz's art style has grown a lot over the course of the semester. I've been talking for a while now, haven't I? But Braz's art has grown a lot over the semester, and he keeps improving it and making changes to it, so it's definitely been interesting to see how that has developed. So we definitely put a lot of work into this. I'm so excited for you guys to play it. Definitely let me know what you think. And that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for watching this developer's commentary. And I'll see you guys soon with a game update. Bye.